First, I want to welcome everyone that's joined. And we are excited to be here tonight, presenting to the Rabbi of Queens a live discussion of the halachic issues that people confront as they prepare for Pesach, and particularly this year with Shabbos Erev Pesach, which has its own nuances to it. So, Reb Chaim, I think from the recorded questions, I think you should feed the questions to me and I'll answer them. I think that would be the best format, I believe.
Absolutely. Okay, I hope everybody can hear us. Rabbi Welcher, you can hear me?
I hear you, yes. You hear me?
Yeah. Okay, we're ready. I guess we're ready to start.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you everybody for joining us with this Zoom meeting. Thank you very much to Rabbi Welcher for being able to give from his precious time for this webinar. It's Baruch Hashem, it's become an annual thing. We also appreciate very much everything that the Rav does for us, for the VAD, and being madrichas and being there for us. Yom v'layla lo yishbaisu leilas kayamim, and the tzibur doesn't know maybe what the Mesiras Nefesh is of the Rabbanim of the VAD, especially Rabbi Welcher and Mikta Shvachei B'fanav. And we just personally, I want to thank the Rav, and I look forward every year to this. And Mitzvah Shem, I hope that everybody here, we're going to try to answer as many shilas as possible. If you would like to, if you send a question, please send it to me in the chat box. And this is being recorded. We will send it out in Mitzvah Shem tomorrow.
Has to come quickly.
Okay. So we'll start off. Should we start off with Shabbos Shachalias B'Shabbos, or doesn't matter?
We're fine. Yeah, let's start with that. That's certainly
okay. Fine. So there's a number of shilas. Of course, the main shilah that everybody wants to know is what does the Rav suggest in terms of challah, matzah, egg matzah for Friday night and Shabbos day? Question one. And then I guess the follow-up question would be to make shalosh shudas early before the zman, the zman achila.
Okay, so let me address really both of those questions. I mean, there are varied options. One could have chametz, one could not have chametz on the Shabbos. My first point is that any communal, public type setting where meals are going to take place, it's an impossibility to have chametz in such a place. There's no way when you have 100 people eating in a place that you're not going to wind up with challah left somewhere when this meal is over. Just people run around, kids run around in a communal setting. There's no way to talk even about chametz in any communal setting. In a private setting, a person has alternatives. Some people will opt to be very traditional and use challahs as they do every Shabbos. And the challenge is to eat the challah in such a place where you're not going to have crumbs flying on the table, which is already, before Shabbos, obviously prepared for Pesach already. So we typically make, in my house, we make kiddush either by the front door, sometimes in the front porch. And we eat the challahs there as well. Then we brush them off, rinse our mouths, wash our hands off. And then we proceed to the meal itself, which is all obviously Pesach dik and with non-chametz kalim. However, whether you want to use plastic on that particular Shabbos, which is going to be the easiest, because how you're going to wash them to prepare for the Seder, which comes on Motzei Shabbos. We certainly don't know, people don't want a massive delay, an hour just to clean up the place like you're going in the Yom Tov Sheni. So the possibilities are to either to eat challah and finish that part of the meal, and then proceed with the rest of the meal after you brush yourself off and clean yourself off. And then, yeah, obviously you have to be careful in the morning, certainly to finish the Suda Shachos before the Zman Isa, which is a little bit on the later side this year. Now, there are others not going to want to have chametz in the house altogether. And one of the options, which is readily available, is one could use egg matzahs for it. The question, how many egg matzahs? The Rashid is to say that you need 2 egg matzahs for a beya. I mean, I'm not, if one wants to be a machmer, that's fine. And I don't have any as a basis. I think Moshe Feinstein's that's all held that way. But there's certainly a basis in halacha as well that a person, Suda Shabbos, needs a shir kabeya. that a person can have one egg matzah and consider that a bayah. It's also this certainly broad mokum on halacha for that position. So a person could wash, eat one egg matzah, and that egg matzah, he can even eat at the table of daiti because it's not chametz. We have most shittas hold that it's a chumrah that we don't eat it on Pesach altogether, the Ashkenazim. You'll note that the Sharet Shuvah cites the note of Yehuda, who certainly allowed egg matzahs and Shabbos Erev Pesach at least until Chatzos without any problem. We also note the fact that the Aruch HaShulchan says that the Ramah, who says he won't discuss the option of egg matzahs because we Ashkenazim are noyig not to use it. The Aruch HaShulchan says it's not the pshat that the Ramah holds it's also. It's just since we didn't need it a whole Pesach, Ashkenazim never made egg matzahs, so nobody had egg matzahs. But he says lahaloch it's mutter. My father, Olav Shalom, knew Rav Lezer Silva Zatzal, and he asked Rav Lezer Silva once about eating egg matzah or Pesach. Rav Lezer Silva Zatzal passed for him that he could eat egg matzahs a whole Erev Pesach, all the way up until the nighttime. Obviously, in Esser shows you have to stop for other considerations. In terms of Easter, there's no Easter on eating egg matzah. And kach, that's the way they were noyeg based ovis, that's all. Allah Shalom, that's the way we were noyeg. My brothers are noyeg like that. I tend not to eat egg matzah after chatzos. And personally, continue after the ending with the chalas and sitting with the meal. We do eat egg matzahs at the meal because I have another halacha consideration, which I know there's pilpul about. But the Chofetz Chaim does quote a Rashba. The Rashba says that if you salik yodov min pas, if you stop eating the pas totally, then you have to make a broch on everything you eat after that. So I always say to myself, what could be a bigger siluk yodov min pas? If matzah I'm not allowed to eat, there's marisa chometz came, and egg matzah also is banned. So what pas can I conceivably eat with this meal? So what could be more siluk yodov min pas, according to Rashba's definition, than this? There are others that have Torahs. I don't know what the Torahs are. So personally, consistent certainly with the road of Yehuda and others, I certainly I eat until Chatzos. I personally eat egg matzahs together. But those are the options. One could have egg matzahs, and as I said, if one wants to be on the machmer side, you have 2 egg matzahs for the Kriya Suda. Not on the machmer side, 1 egg matzah for the Kriya Suda, and one could wash and make on the Tilas Yadayim on that. If one wants, one could have challah to 2 meals, one at night, one in the morning. That a question becomes, is a whole question, and there's a whole literature even in the Rishonim, if there's a din, when to fulfill the din shalosh shudis, and if there's a din shalosh shudis. So some want to argue that in fact that the shalosh shudis is to divide the morning meal in 2 parts, as Yidden typically do if Shabbos is Erev Yom Tov. So they wash, they eat the first course, and the Polish Yidden, I know certainly that was law gets later like that. And then they wait. So the Aruch HaShulchan says you don't really have to wait. The Chofetz Chaim is an option in favor of waiting 15, 20 minutes, then wash again and start the next Suda. So if you're a Yekisha type and you can get really both of them in before there's man Isa Chometz, so you can even have Chometz to wash and Chometz with a second one. Now, there are Rishonim that say that you can't be Yotzei Shalosh Shudis, and that's really, if you look at the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish Tzadik Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch says this man of Suda Shlish starts from Sheish Shalos B'Chetzi, and this man Mincha. So according to that, you can't be Yotzei Shalosh Shudis in the morning. So the question is, what do we do in the afternoon? As I said, if one is, as most Ashkenazim don't eat egg matzah, certainly in the afternoon of Pesach, and we can't eat chometz. So there are 2 options. Some say to be Yotzei like with Peirus or something like that. A light, maybe a little piece of fish early in the afternoon. The Aruch HaShulchan, I believe, is of the view that obviously there's no din shalosh shudis in such basis. If it wasn't shaykh to have a din shalosh shudis, it was never enacted in the first place. So we try a little bit, according to the halacha, the Hilchos Erev Pesach, one is allowed to eat lightly Erev Pesach in the afternoon. So after Sheish Shalos B'Chetzi, one should eat a little bit and try to be Yotzei Shalosh Shudis in that manner as well. Go ahead, Reb Chaim.
Yes. So if a person, let's say, made 2 sudas with chametz, some people have the minute to make with 2 sudas with chametz earlier.
Yeah.
Before this month, is there an inyan to have chametz by the first one or the second one? Is there any to have the cholent? Is there an Indian to have the cholent at the morning meal?
If you'd asked me, I would have been makbid to have it at the second meal. The first meal of the day. But Lamaisa, not in Eretz Yisrael, they're not knowing like that in this halacha. In Eretz Yisrael, it's very common in yeshivish circles that people daven very early in the morning Shabbos. I used to daven when I lived in Eretz Yisrael at 7 in the morning. By 9 o'clock, I was home. So I would make Kiddush at that time, and I'd sit and learn for 3 hours. And then noontime, we'd have the meal, and that's when we ate the cholent. A lot of people in Eretz Yisrael washed even at that first meal in the morning, but they have the cholent midday. So I guess as long as it's in one of the Suda Shabbos in the daytime, as I said, if you asked me, I would have preferred it in the earlier Suda. So they're not ready to be machmir.
Is there, if a person is having the two Sudas, what's the minimum amount of time he has to wait in order
according to the Chavetz Chaim, he should wait 15, 20 minutes and get busy doing something else, go out a little, come back. The Herschel writes that one doesn't have to wait. So, and I would tell you, among Polish Yidden, they did not wait. They used to, on Yom Tov, let's say when Motzei Shabbos was Yom Tov, at the Sudan Shabbos, they washed, they ate the fish, they benched, and they went inside and washed and then started the next. That was logged by Polish Yidden like that. I saw it and I remember it in my youth. And Aruch HaShulchan does support that's halachically correct. The ones that want to be more machmer, and I said the Chavetz Chaim is in favor of being more machmer, should wait about 15, 20 minutes. We want us to be very careful this year not to run over the time.
Is it? Rob mentioned this earlier, but Derech Agav, I just wanted to point it out. Is there an inyan of let's say a person wants to eat the chametz on the porch and continue inside? Is there a problem of shinoi makom or masalik yadei min hapas?
As I said, if it's in one house, if you want to go, basically, I personally view the porch in the house as one. You have dust; it's like gas going from one room to the next. So I'm not personally concerned about shinoi makom.
An interesting shaila someone asked me to ask was, what about Friday night with hadlakas neiros? If a person's going to eat outside, do they have to light outside as well?
No, I think, listen, most people don't eat fully outside. They wash outside, but they're going to eat most of the meal inside. And most people, according to the laws of New York City since my youth, that one has to have a light on the porch. So there is light on the porch. So the neighbors, the Shem Shabbos, are going to have the Ikar Suda is going to be inside.
Right. Okay. Very good. Another shaila that I had that came in was an interesting shaila. I don't know how much it's nogea, but what about if a person has to make erev chatzeris on erev Shabbos of erev Pesach now? What does he use? He can't eat matzah on Shabbos afternoon, Shabbos day. But let's say you have to make an erev chatzeris on Friday.
What should he do if he has to make an erev chatzeris? I don't know. I would just tell him make the erev chatzeris before Yom Tov. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. He don't know what to tell you. He wants to,
Yeah, this shaila came up. Okay. In terms of eating in the afternoon before. In terms of eating after, let's say a person, you're going to eat early Shabbos morning, Shabbos afternoon. Is there a problem with sitting down to have a meal even after Shah Siris? If you're not washing, is there, for the kids?
It's clear. It's very clear from the Shulchan Aruch and the Torah Shulchan Aruch that you're not supposed to eat substantial amounts after Shah Siris, even without washing. Washing is an impossibility after Shah Siris because the Iker is matzah was also a whole day. Chometz was also now, from this one Isra and all. So what the principal thing we're talking about is not to eat like matzah shira. But that's what they were talking about in the Gemara. And it's very clear. They talk about, for example, if you're allowed to have wine even. So that they're machalik between a little bit of wine, a lot of wine, etc. So you see that the Isra has nothing to do with washing. It has to do with eating a significant amount. So one may eat, but one has to eat very lightly and be very careful.
On Matzah Shabbos, so for many people have the minhag that everybody in the family says Kiddush. So we know that women, the minhag by women is not to make havdalah. Even though women don't make havdalah, do we say that because it's Yak Nahaz, the women should say everything on the first night of Pesach as well?
Yeah,
Like in our family,
so.
I know in our family, we everybody makes kiddush together.
In many places, the women also make it. I don't think we have Kepedas by Yak Nahaz. Only the sole Kepeda stands on the fact, well, first of all, there's a question if they're mechuyev or not. So that's number one. According to Ashkenazic practice, even if they're not mechuyev, they're allowed to recite Havdalah. And then the Ram says that Api Kabbalah is an Indian not to drink of the kais of Havdalah. But here that it's a kais of Kiddush, lo shamati lo ra'isi ever, that a woman doesn't drink from the kais of Kiddush by Yak Nahas.
So therefore, she should make the whole thing.
If that's her practice, yes.
I just want to go back to Shabbos. Back to Shabbos. A person that does go along with the chametz, having chametz, and he has a little bit left. So what does the Rav feel is the best way to dispose of that chametz?
You have a number of options. The classic one in New York was they flushed it down the toilet. And that's, and now that you have an Erev, if you want, you can go and throw it into a sewer, if you have small amounts that you won't clog up the sewer. And I don't know. I'm wondering this year. Maybe you heard of Schwartz. Is the sanitation going to come around on Shabbos morning?
I don't know.
We should find out because I think it's worth publicizing. The sanitation usually makes 2-3 rounds on Erev Pesach.
So then it would be best to put it outside. Let them take it.
Put it outside in a garbage bag, not in your garbage can, because then it's hefker. You have no responsibility for it. It's not in your kingdom, and let them take it away. That's also acceptable. We have a number of options.
Okay. I want to go back to, if the Rav doesn't mind, just want to go back to B'dikas Chametz. B'dikas Chametz and Mechiras Chametz for this year.
Well, the whole Masechta Pesachim is one day in the life of a Jew. It starts the first parak with B'dikas Chametz, and the last parak talks about the Seder. The whole Masechta Pesachim is one day in the life of a Jew.
Baruch Hashem. Tili halachas. A person that is going away. A person that's going away is a little bit of so someone just sanitation is coming around for Jamaica Estates Thursday night and Friday morning. Someone just posted this. Okay. So a person, we know that there's an inyan of a mechira gimel. These are just shilas that we got. A little bit off the beaten track, but I think a lot of questions are dealt with. Let's deal with things that are not dealt with. A person that's got, so we know this year that the mechira is on Yud Gimel. Usually when a person, let's say, doesn't want to be baidik, he does a mechira. He can do a mechira Yud Gimel, mechira Yud Dalet. Does this year's mechira Yud Gimel help him from not doing b'dikas chametz? Let's say he's going away to Orlando or something.
No, let me explain. There's an issue which is debated among the Achrayim. If I rent my property to a non-Jew before the Zman of B'dikas Chametz, or when the Zman of B'dikas Chametz comes, it's no longer in my possession, so I could be exempted, hypothetically, from B'dikas Chametz. Some Sefer writes that I could even do this on the day of Yud Dalet. Since I know I'm going to rent it out on Yud Dalet, when Pesach comes, it's no longer going to be mine, after the Zman Easter. So I'm not mechuyev. The whole b'dikas chametz, I'm only mechuyev to make sure that I don't have chametz after this Zman Easter. But I'm not going to have this place anymore after this Zman Easter. So what do I have to do b'dikas chametz for? That's the Chassam Sofer's view. Now, generally speaking, I have a lot of people that come to me that want me to do mechiras gimel for them, to be yotzei choladeis in terms of not having to do b'dikas chametz. And I, by and large, with rare exception, I refuse. I said, let's understand what we're doing. You're doing the Mechiras Yud Gimel, but you still keep the chametz to eat from Yud Gimel to Yud Dalet. So what happens if you forget that a piece of challah or a piece of cake falls behind the couch and you don't get rid of it before Pesach? So now you have a piece of chametz without Mechiras chametz. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tov Memches says we don't rely on bittul. Even with the evet, if I did bittul, and I did nothing else, the Shulchan Aruch Pasuk is based on Yerushalmi that the chametz is also b'hano after Pesach. So why are we going to a place where the world is not yekis? Everything is not so mesudah. And Ramela, the kid will put a sandwich under the couch and you find it after Yom Tov, and that wasn't sold. So To have a chumrah, not like the Chassam Sofer and Bedikas Chametz and Dinder Rabbanon, and to have a kula and Bal Yiro, Bal Yimotzi, I'm not interested in getting involved in it. So I tell people, no, I don't do, for that purpose, I do Mechiras Yudal. If you're happy with that, tell you. If you're not, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Now, the Mechiras Yud Gimel this year, which is Erev Shabbos, is the morning after Bedikas Chametz. So according to the Chassam Sofer again, it's good according to the ones that hold that it has to be executed before the time of the Bedikas Chametz, and you need a Mechiras Yud Beis this year to resolve that problem. Now, there's another issue which you haven't raised, and that is at what point in time is the Mechira going to take effect? Is it going to take effect right before Shabbos? Is it going to take effect on Shabbos between the Zman Yisra Achila and the Zman Yisra Hano? That's the question. And there's a divided opinion among the Rabbanim what to do. Personally, I'm going to have the Mechira that I execute take place in between the Zman Yisra Achila and Yisra Hano on Shabbos in the daytime. Now, I'm well aware the world's pickbook on this is Rabbi Akiva Eiger of Masechet Beya that says that according to the views that you cannot make a kinyan on Shabbos, it's not only the Maisa kinyan, but even for a kinyan to be chal, to take effect on Shabbos, is also awesome. So I said, time. First of all, not the whole world holds it's awesome. The Rabbanim holds it's awesome the regular kinyan. So not necessarily mukhrach that everyone holds it. Number two, on Sukkot, if a person doesn't have his own lulav and esrog, so he needs lachem, so a makna, we transfer ownership on Yom Tov to a person so that it can be yotzi lulav and esrog. We even do this on the second day of Yom Tov to have lachem. On the second day of Yom Tov, we're mekim b'kfir di'acha. We know there's no question, there's absolutely no mitzvah d'oraisa is going to take place. And nevertheless, we say it's a dvar mitzvah, and we make a kinyan with the ma'isa kinyan, not only the chalos. So here it's going to come to two lavim of Bal Yiro, Bal Yimotzi. And if I sold the guy's chametz before Shabbos, and if he gets a piece of chametz behind the couch on Shabbos, he's having his Bal Yiro, Bal Yimotzi problems. So this is not a dvar mitzvah. Here is two lavim deraisa. So I have no problem saying that even Rabbi Akiva Eiger would agree that this is b'mokum mitzvah, and it's merely the chalos, and we should not ask the chalos. And that's the way I've been planning in order to execute it together.
So to that end, it just occurred to me, Shaila, we know that people have closed their closets and you put away your chametz kelim. So let's say a person he has a keli that he was left out for some reason. He has let's say he wants to make a l'chaim with a schnapps glass Friday night. Can he then open up the closet where he's selling to the guy and put that in?
Yeah, they can open up the closet and put it in as long as it's not over some Easter by, I had a closet was closed in the first place. You can put it in. There's a whole literature which has to do with what happens if you find a piece of chametz on Pesach? What should you do with it? Right? There's a simon in the Shulchan Aruch that deals with it. So what should you do? So there's a whole shaila. You kaifol if you did bittul, you kaifol of kli, you wait till chalamayit, and then you burn it. I always thought, and I bothered many rabbanim about this, and that is bismanenu that we do mechiras chametz. If I find a piece of chametz on Yom Tov, it's moved. So what should I do with it in Motzei Yom Tov? I should open up the closet with the guy's chametz and put this piece of the guy's chametz together with the rest of his chametz. What am I burning it for? It's not mine. Maybe I should open up the closet where I put the guy's chametz, take out the chametz from there, and burn it too. So I did see some place that Rav Vozhna said there is some type of heter if you want to burn such a thing. But as I said, the dinner, what you're supposed to do is just put it away, the guy's chametz, and that's all.
Someone sent in a question now. How would one clean their teeth or clean their mouth out Shabbos morning if they did have chametz?
How do you clean it out? You use a lot of water and a finger and a toothpick and you wash it out. And that's all. And if you like a little schnapps will help the job too.
Is it make it?
By the way, I just want to, before I forget, I'm sorry. Those that have braces or other devices in the mouth, I always have given a psak that for 24 hours before the Zman Isa chametz, they should not eat chametz. Solid chametz or sticky liquid chametz, because it gets stuck in between them. And people came to tell me I'm a big machma. So I asked a an orthodontist, a from orthodontist, that was in the shul. He says, Rabbi, you're a makel, Rabbi. I can find food that's 5 days old behind those braces. So I'm not that choishish because I believe the deterioration from the saliva. But from an ace la ace, I'm machmer that people should not eat solid chametz. Anyone that does have braces and these type of devices should not be eaten with egg matzah, not challah, this particular Shabbos.
Okay. Well, okay, that's it, Buffett. We have a couple of braces in our family, so I'm sure they'll be happy to know. Okay. Someone asked interesting shaila, hashkafa shaila. Shveit chamascha, opening the door. Is there an Indian that the children should do it, the wife should do it?
Well, whatever the family minhag is, that I don't see any, particular way it has to be. Whatever the noyig in each family, that's the way they should continue to be noyig.
Now, is there a specific shear that the kaishal elio has to be, or can it be whatever the shear of a kais is? But people have a big
it should be the shear of a kais. You have to know that there's about one region you can find some reference that it's a kaishal elio and Ramaz and Mashiach. The ikar, if you look in the Torah Shulchan Aruch, the ikar of this, a question that of having a kais chamishi, according to some Gustos in the Gemara, and that's where this came from. It was that before the halal, they put out a kais chamishi and they recited the halal on it. And it's a whole Torah of what this was about. It's not, I've said once the Shabbos I go to Rosh on it. So it's clear it was intended to be an additional kos besides the 4 koses, that the kos chamishi was a reshus, and that reshus is going to lower as a halal. So it has to be the share of any other kos. I presume that since in the common vernacular it's called kosher elio, and we stress, so I said, which I believe it's not only one reason that I found it, that there's some remnants to the coming of Mashiach and Eliyah Novi. So since it's a welcome to Eliyah Novi, so we had a special mechumadik big cup, to be mechaber. That's what I presume with this practice of having these, large size bechers comes.
Okay. We're going to go off of Shabbos. Maybe we'll come back to it, but just a couple of things that people have. Someone just sent in a question. What is there? Someone sent it earlier. Let me just say this. Get to this. Someone has a kosher Pesach item wrapped in his freezer, and he wants to use it for Pesach this year, but noticed that some kidney soup dripped on the outside of the wrapping while in the freezer. Can you wash off the wrapper and use the product from Pesach?
You can certainly wash off the outside and use it. I mean, it's very, very important to learn the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is very clear that kidneys is not chametz. Kidneys is bottle b'roiv on Pesach. It was chametz. If one studies Siman Tov Mem Beis, so we know we're very, very machmer about chametz. The chametz is also even b'mashu on Pesach. A very small amount of chametz can cause a whole huge volume of food to become osir. We do know, of course, that the famous statement of Rabbi Zatzal, that they asked him how you could drink the water. And the Heilig Yidden that did not use the water on Pesach, Rabbi Yosef Zatzal was one of them. He used to prepare a huge volume of water in the house, and they would not use any water from the tap on Pesach, because with the concern that, let's say, some chametz falls into it somewhere in the water system, so there's a mashu of chametz giving tam, and if it gives tam on Pesach, it's also before Pesach, it's mutter. So they asked this to Rabbi Chaim Ozer in Europe, that with modern water systems, so you're getting all from one reservoir. If somebody drops a piece of chametz into it, does that mean you can't drink the water because it's also a mashul? So Rabbi Chaim Ozer said a mashul also has a shear. It doesn't mean, a speck. It's not what it means.
I mean, a mashu is not mamash a mashu.
Yes.
Okay. I want to get back to.
Consequently, as I was saying, kidneys is bottle b'roim. So if it's spilled on the outside, probably it didn't get on the inside. Most things are well wrapped when you put them in the freezer, so they don't get freezer burn. And chas b'sholem, if a little drop got inside, it's bottle b'roim. So what's the issue?
Tainus B'chayrim this year is on Thursday.
Correct.
Is there a kula that, let's say somebody can't go to a siyum for whatever reason? Is there a kula for him to eat because it's a nidcha, or that's this year that's the zman, and therefore he has to be machmir to have a sim?
I presume, I don't know, I've not seen the Shaila inside, but it seems to me that the minhag is to have it on Thursday. But a person should at least keep in mind the fact, Rav Avadi Zatzal wrote in a tshuva that if one finishes one Masechta Mishnayos, one can make a siyum. So I think in today's world, with the plethora of Sforim that we have on the Mishnah, that there's little excuse for a person to say he can't really have, at least have some type of siyum for the Tanis B'chayr.
An interesting shaila just came in. Can a person eat kitnius the whole day Erev Pesach this year, or any year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we eat I don't believe we ever eat kitnius the whole day. The reason that we don't eat kitnius, there is some slight chash of chametz. There are varied reasons for the minhag of kitnius. One is that it can be confused with flour, but there's another more basic reason that a lot of kitnius grows in proximity to fields of grain. In fact, there's a Chuvas Rashba that discusses the fact that why is it that you don't have to, we don't worry about small amounts of klayim when different types of minim mix together. In the Kloizroy, he says, don't tell me because of bittul, because there is no bittul by shatnez. If you take one thread and put it into 1,000 yards of wool, the whole thing is shatnez.
Right.
So the Rashba says, because Allah nitn Torah l'malach ha'asharis, and I'm not even mechuyev to do bedika. I don't want to go into the implications. It's discussed by Achronim already. But the point that he's making is that it's common for it to be different minim blow from one field to the next. So because of that means there is some level of shash chametz, and it's a minhag not to use it. We don't use it to do b'chlal after this money ever.
I want to go back to the braces. Someone sent in a shaila. Would it be realistic for somebody with the braces to try to swallow small pieces of challah without chewing on Erev Pesach?
Listen, don't fetch so much. You tell me I will do what the Gemara in Ksuba says in Daf Lamed will be tochav lo b'beis abliya,
Yeah. Also, that's not derech achila, probably. Okay. Let's go into the other shilas that have come up this year. So a constant shilah, it doesn't stop, is vitamins and medications, and this has become acutely important. I see it year by year, mamish more and more, that Baruch Hashem, people are very, very, especially this year, people are very, very health conscientious, especially with the corona, with the COVID-19. People have started to take more vitamins to try to stave off the virus. I know actually someone in our mishpacha who got the virus recently, an uncle, and he Baruch Hashem is feeling better, and he says maybe it's because he took the vitamins, before. So number one, there's the kashrus issue of vitamins, bichlal, and then there's also the Pesach issue of the vitamins. So if the Rav could speak about that.
Okay, in general, the generally accepted view about medicines, there was a statement put out by Rabbi, I think the CRC in Chicago a number of years ago. It's readily available online, which articulates, I think, the standard position about medicines. That by and large, pills do not have an issue of chametz in and of themselves. But you'll see in the introduction to Rav Bess's book from the Kollel in Los Angeles, the sheet is achronim that are machmer about such things. Many people want to be machmer, and as long as it's not at the cost of their health, they're certainly entitled to be machmer. But as I said, these things are mutter. Now the question vitamins is altogether a question exactly how to classify them. Do we classify them as a food item? Do we classify them as a medicinal item? When we struggle, it's in a borderline between medicine and food. And we struggle with it always. We struggle with it. Is one allowed to take vitamins and Shabbos? How do we look at it? Is it food or is it a medicine? So it lies right at the seam. But by and large, generally, Mekubal Allah, I'm not going to tell you, Rav Belsky probably would disagree. Rav Belsky, this is an old running machlekes, which is going on for about 200 years already. The Ksav Sofer is the one really that started the discussion of this sugya altogether. So Sefer and Tshuva quotes as a Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, I think it's in the fourth or the fifth parak, and there the Rambam writes that the person, we have a principle that's called achshava. It means if I take something which is a non-food, but I eat it for a food purpose, so with the Rabbanan it's also considered achshava. The Rambam writes, take something for a medicinal purpose does not give it a din achshava. That's what the Rambam writes. So this was the general heter for types of pills that were not so royal achila, didn't taste well, so I want to eat the thing. So the Rambam already paskin that there's no achshava for a medicinal purpose, and this is articulated in the Chuvas of Ksav Sefer. So then started a whole Torahs, which haven't ended since the Ksav Sefer. And what happens if the medicine is good tasting? They put, something in to make a good taste for the medicine. So maybe it goes back into the realm of an oichel now. And we have divided opinion. I think that the Siddim tend in general to be machmer in the Shaila. Rav Belsky Zatzal was also machmer in this particular Shaila. Rav Moshe Zatzal was mekel in this Shaila. Rav Moshe had a cheshbon and said, you may have a cherry flavor in the medicine, but nobody in the right mind is going to eat this medicine for the cherry flavor. The only one that takes this for the cherry flavor is the person that needs the medicine. Consequently, Rav Moshe said that the cherry flavor went down the tubes with the medicine, just as the medicine is not an oichel. Now it became part of a non-oichel, it's not an oichel. So therefore, this is also not an oichel. So this is a general shaila which persists, and it persists. The question is relevant to Pesach too, and Pesach a little bit, as I said, we tend to be more, in general, to be more nizer. So I would presume we take more the machmer side usually in this. But as I said, there are stodim and dinner lekana. In Pesach we generally shy away from it. In Pesach I'm not so. For medicines I'm mekel. And for vitamins, I told people, if it's a vitamin that's prescribed by the doctor, as a person has a particular condition and he has to take it, so then it's together a medicine too. But less than that, a person that's taking it because he decided to take it and it's not under medical orders to take it, then I tell people, then make sure the thing is kosher Pesach, that doesn't have chametz in it. That's the stint that I take. And, there are many things. For example, vitamin D is known that it generally has chametz in it, for example.
Okay, we'll get into the more modern shilos now. Two shilos that have come up. One's not so modern. The other one is very, very modern. Is the shiloh of stocks, especially bisman hazeh. Many people, especially with Robinhood and the game, whatever they call it. But many people own mutual fund stocks, retirement funds. And a lot of people are trading right now. People are actually trading, day trading. People, I know a lot of people, especially this app Robinhood, where people are trading stocks and all different types of things. Is there an issue with, first of all, owning a stock that might have chametz? And second of all, if a person's day trading on Chol Hamoed, can he buy a stock? All of a sudden he sees, stock, Nabisco, I don't know, whatever, is a hot stock. It's on the list there's a lot of lists. Can a person buy that on Pesach?
Okay, let's say there are two general shittas that are generally followed. There are those that in public corporations say that they have an issue of chametz. It has to be that you own rove of the shares. A miyud of the shares is not significant. Rav Moshe Zatzal had a more machmedic position on it. And Rav Moshe's view was, let's say you buy 5% of a company. 5% of a company, you're a major stockholder with 5% of a public company. And when you sneeze, they shake. So Rav Moshe said, if you own enough of the company that you have a voice in what they do, then that's considered that you have real bias, real ownership. But if you own 100 shares and nobody pays any attention to you, that's not considered a bias in a corporation. So that's in terms of stock that people have before Yom Tov is smach lahokel. Many of the shtoros of the Rabbanan, in fact, include that the Mechira includes the stock too. So at least al pidin it's a transfer, even if it's not technically in the legal sense a transfer. So between those two, most of the world is Seimach on for Yom Tov for these things. I wouldn't go and buy a stock which I know explicitly trades in chametz on Pesach. I wouldn't answer it if a person did it, but I wouldn't go to buy it either. That I wouldn't.
So the second child I want to ask was Amazon. Amazon, I'm not talking about the sellers. I'm not going to get into that whole, I'm not familiar with it, but buyers. Let's say a person, it's a person buys, let's say a perfume. And that perfume, he wants to buy for his wife, or a woman buys it or something, or anything which is really a davar chametz, and he thinks he's going to get it before Pesach, and it gets delayed till the middle of Pesach, on Pesach. What should he do? Or let's say he makes a mistake and he bought chametz on Amazon, and now it comes in on Yom Tov.
It's a significant problem what to do. The shtoros mechira, including mine, say that we're selling transit goods. But how you sell goods in transit, I'm not exactly sure, because do I really own them or they're in transit? I'm not sure who.
So that would also, is it once you press submit payment, is that a kinyan? Is that yours now?
So in what way is it a kinyan? Basically, most Rishonim hold that kesef is not a kinyan from an akum. There's a machlokes, it's brought in Tov Mem Ches, and it's also brought in Yeridei on the Siman on Mechiras Bechar. So Rashi Shita is that the transfer of metaltalum between Jews and non-Jews can take place on the basis of kesef. The Rabbeinu disagrees, and most Shitas, in fact, hold like Rabbeinu Tam. Rashi is the exception in this regard. Rashi Shita knows that hold like it. So on what basis is it considered mine? And so I'm not sure. It's also when they law the common carrier calls man that they didn't deliver it to me, they're still a chroi for it. So I'm not sure exactly how we're pulling off a mechira on a thing that I don't, unless I'll say maybe I'll did it the malchusim, I own it, and for that reason I have a right to make a sale on it. And if they came to my house, I think the person shouldn't accept it and either send it back, not accepting it, or to be mafkur, just throw it into the street. I mean, to take it in is already, certainly would be awesome. I mean, we have a klal, chametz, we're machmer by chametz, very interesting. And that is, let's say I own a trucking company. Can I truck chametz? A non-Jew is selling to a non-Jew, and I have a trucking company. Can I truck his chametz on Pesach? So we're machmer lechatchila, according to the sheet, this is a dinner mesechta where there's a rotza b'kiyuma. If I want the Isser Hanoah, that it's also for me to be nanified. And it's clear, I think, that there's a shayla in Rishonim, and the Chavetz Chaim alludes to it in the Gur Aloha. Does this apply only to Avodah Zarah together, which is what the Gemara is discussing in Avodah Zarah when it talks about Rotza B'Kiyuma, or does it apply to other Isurim too? But clearly, we're machmer that a person is certainly a person that takes it, certainly Rotza B'Kiyuma. So at the very least, he's over on that, and maybe even more than that. Because if he's taking it in, so Amela is sort of saying he's overriding his bittul, and maybe he doesn't have a mechira. So I wouldn't take it in. I think he should refuse to take it, or if it comes, he should throw it out.
Someone just sent a question. She has a lipstick that is not listed on any of the published list or online as being kosher l'Pesach.
What's this?
A woman has a lipstick that's not listed in any of the published lists.
Listen, let her look on the Chicago list.
She says it's not on any list.
No, not the list. She's looking at the wrong, going about. Look on the Chicago statement of the CRC from about 10, 12 years ago about what you can use on Pesach or not. That's, to me, is operative.
Okay, a good friend of ours asked a question. Do you have to clean toys for Pesach? And if you do, what is required?
Listen, you don't really have to clean them. To a large extent, as long as the kids don't, schlep them around the table, you don't have to clean them. Well, why do I say that? The Gemara says in Pesachim and Avavim and Beis that Perurim are Mamela Batla. You don't have to bother with Perurim. You don't need bittul for Perurim. They're bottled by themselves. And Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal articulates the Gemara, Poshet Pshat in the Gemara, that you don't do B'dikas Chametz for Perurim. The Chavetz Chaim in Machane Yisrael, and the sefer that he wrote for soldiers, wrote L'Chumra, but in Tov Lamed Gimel in the Mishnah and the Sharatzin, he writes the Kula. So I believe the Pshat is that the Chavetz Chaim wrote L'Chumra for the soldiers because they have all types of problems that no normal person has. He's living in a barrack, going chametz all over the place, and the Chavetz Chaim wanted them to be super machmer, so that they should be nichshel and chametz. And the Mishnah and Tov Lamed Gimel, he was mekel, chametz falls on the floor, Crumbs, you're not mechuyev to bother with it, he says in the Shatziyah. And that's Moshe's position. So what more do you have on the toys than that? If you want to clean them anyhow, so I told people a very simple thing. Fill up the bathtub with water, put some cleanser, a little Mr. Cleaner, ammonia in it, throw all the plastic toys in there, leave them in there overnight, and tomorrow dry them off and put them away.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, you could, you're not going to use all the toys anyway. You could, whatever toys you don't need. Okay, someone wanted to know, do you have to clean out the garbage pails, the street garbage pails, or can you just pour bleach into it?
What's this?
The street garbage cans, the garbage cans on the outside.
You don't have to do anything with them. You have to just make sure you take the bag with the chametz and dump it out and bang it out, that you don't have a piece of bread at the bottom, and that's it. The nias and stuff that's left in there is certainly not royal achila.
I think, I don't know if the Rabbi got this before. What is the minimum amount of wine or grape juice one needs to drink for a dollar cases?
Well, we have many shitas. Let's talk about what's mekubal in our country, because Rabbi Noah, and in fact the Satmar Rebbe are somewhat less. Then where Noah gets later, then our Noah gets later. What's Noah gets later is, let's put it, Moshe was the God Lador, so we'll follow his shitas, and that is, this Pesach is not on Friday night, so according to Moshe, you need 3 ounces. The 3.3 was an earlier version, which in fact was overridden later, and they revised it to slightly under 3 ounces. So I don't know why they keep publishing the 3.3 ounce one. The 3.3 ounce one, they rescinded because they recalculated, and it came out to 2.95. So 3 ounces is enough, according to Moshe, for a Friday night, not for Friday night. So that's all one needs. I mean, there are all types of other sheetas. I mean, the Chazan Ish only need a 5 ounce cup. And how much do you have to drink? So the minute it's also, do you drink Roif Kais as a Chumrah? Do you drink Rov Revius as Mitzar Adin? Is all one has to drink? Well, if one drinks Rov Revius, what is Yaitz Mitzar Adin? When it says you drink Okulo, does that kulo mean pashtus in the Shulchan Aruch? When it says rubo or kulo, the kulo doesn't mean to drink the whole kos. The kulo means to drink a whole revius. There is a sheet in Achronim, I think of the Elio Rav, if I recall, that holds that kulo goes in the whole kos. The pashtus in the Shulchan Aruch is not like that. It means either over a revius or the whole revius. But many annoyed the chumrah, they follow Pesach, the mahadrin, and a mahadrin, so they want to drink the whole kos. But then if one wants to drink the whole kos, you have to be careful not to make the kos too big.
Someone just sent in a question. What about retainers or dentures?
Retainers or?
Dentures.
Well, dentures, if you can take them out and clean them without, then fine. You don't need to kasher them. You don't take things that are by and large that are into the mouth that are yatzel ledges. So the dentures, if they're removable dentures or not removable. If they're removable dentures, wash them clean. Otherwise, if they're in the mouth the whole time and they don't have, crevices in them, they're formulated like regular teeth, then you could eat chametz. If it's the other possibility you mentioned is besides braces, what else?
Dentures. Braces, retainers.
Retainers have the problem of braces. They definitely do. They usually have a space in between them on the bottom where things can get into.
Okay, I want to get into kashering a little bit before we forget. We have a number of shilas about kashering. The surface of the oven, where there are openings on each side, does that have to be removed? Chametz may have fallen into the surface of these openings, or does the self-clean take care of that?
Where is this again?
The surface of the oven where there are openings on each side. Not sure what that means.
I don't know. Listen, I certainly wouldn't in an oven that's self-cleaning. I'm not worried that too much is going to survive in there. You do a basic cleaning beforehand and then put it on.
Okay, and also somebody wants to know, if you use all year in your Keurig coffee, can you kasher for Pesach? I think the Rav in the past said no. You can't kasher
for Pesach. There are many plastic pots. It's around chametz the whole year. It's not gets later, to use the same one for Pesach.
Okay, the Orlando Shaila. So everybody's Baruch Hashem, a lot of Yidden are going down to Orlando, and in all the resorts they have glass stovetops, and people want to know how to kasher that.
Listen, I don't have any eights for it. The problem with glass is lidite. this is also by Machlekes Shnuya, Kach Kibalti, and I found in the Pri Megadim in Kufay, I was Medayik in the Pri Megadim in Kufay in Yerodea, that the Pri Megadim also holds this way. Ramos Machmer on glass in Ilchos Pesach. For the Mashmos in the, I have a diak in the Pri Megadim, and that's my Kabbalah also, that this chumrah is only for Pesach. For a whole year glass, you don't need to do anything. It doesn't become milchik, it doesn't become fleshik, it's not bulay. But Pesach, it's a problem, we're machmer. And the problem is you cannot cover a glass top. If you cover it, the heat build up, it can cause it to crack. So I don't know any eights. You may call the stockade. They may have found some material that you can put on the top of the oven to cover it, which is not flammable, and which also, will keep the pots off the glass top. So find out from them. They may have such a thing.
There is something that they sell on Amazon where it's a mesh that you could put on, and the heat will still go through. Is that good? Would that be better?
I'm not going to answer until I see what the thing is.
Also, there's another thing that they have, which is like a metal ring, just a metal ring, where you can, it'll sit on top of the ring. It's got a hole in the middle. It's like a donut, but the ring will sit on top. It won't sit on the actual glass, but it'll sit on the ring. A metal, it's like maybe an eighth of an inch, maybe even smaller.
I'd have to see it. In other words, you have to know if there's a concern that the pots of food can still come in contact with the oven top.
Okay, someone just sent a Shaila. If I live in an apartment and I live with a roommate and we want to sell it for Pesach, do I have to sell my personal chametz and then do another sale on the joint apartment?
Each one should sell in his own shtar, his chametz, plus do the schirus of his chelik of the contract, of the lease.
Well, that's a shaila by schirus. Is it 100% or is it 50%? Right? Or right?
Whatever it is, listen, whatever it's shutfus. We're not trying to figure out these esoteric questions.
Okay. It just came up with in the sugyas of Pesach. Does somebody have to remove the sink aerator and replace it, or can you just pour boiling water over it?
If it's removable, I like to remove it or replace it. If it's not removable, I dump hot water and go on.
Okay. The question also people asked about kashering the sinks and the stovetop and the countertops with these steam jets. And what does the Rav feel if that's not the best idea? How should a person kasher the
steam jet? Is the Machlekes Shnuya if it's an acceptable kashrus or not? The method of doing hadolah or not? It's an old Machlekes. It was in many places relied upon in commercial settings, but not by all, but by many. But it's the Machlekes Shnuya. Now I tested some of them. Some of them, if you put your hand on the counter after you shoot the steam, the counter was cold. Some of them it gets hot. So if it's not getting hot, it's altogether no good at all. So I don't recommend that people go in this direction. This is a controversial direction. And the people should kasher be'iru to the largest extent. I mean, presuming that you don't put hot pots down. Normally, most people, if you have a stone countertop, which people have at home, by and large, people don't put hot pots directly on it because they're afraid it's going to crack. So it's enough to do irui on it, and then it's fine, it's mutter. But you have to assume, I'm personally among the machmirim, that if it's a compounded stone, in other words, it's not a natural piece, but it's compounded, that you cannot kasher it for Pesach. Certainly not for Pesach. Now that includes quartz usually is compounded, corian is compounded, and you have to know if the design seems to fluctuate and not be even throughout, that's a strong siman that it's natural and that you can kasher. Now stainless sinks that we're talking about, so if you put hot pots down them a whole year, then it's a problem. Then l'chatchila one needs an eben melubin, which is where you'll take the very hot stone and run across the bottom or a piece of metal and run across the bottom on top of the water that the water should boil on the spot in the manner of a kli rishon, which is for many people I'm not recommending because they're not used to working with such hot things, and I'm afraid they're going to get hurt. So if you typically put hot pots down on the bottom, so you're probably better off just doing iri and covering it. But there is a basis. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, with the Ramah, the Mechaber says that we follow Rov Tashmisha, meaning the principle manner of use is what we have to kasher for. There are more machmer in a number of places in Aleph that miyat tashmishu, even a secondary use is mechayiv, obligates us to do kashering for it. So typically in a sink, most of the chometz in there is by pouring. A little bit may come from pots being put on the bottom. So the Ramah Lechatchil is being machmer, but the Chofetz Chaim does quote a Beis Meir, and the Beis Meir says that in a situation where I find it difficult to do the Evan Melubin, I can rely on the sheet of Reif Tashmisha suffices. So there is basis if a person, if he has difficulty doing the Evan Melubin or for some reason working with covered, to be soymech on the Beis Meir.
Someone sent in a shaila, if you're cooking with a pot, a kosher Pesach pot. In other words, right now you're cooking. You're starting to cook. Can you use cold water from a non-kosher kitchen sink for cooking?
Absolutely can use cold water from a non-kosher sink, yes.
Okay, if the part of a sink faucet or a kli has a small part that's rubber, can one still kosher it if roiv of it is metal?
The Beis Yitzchak writes that we follow rove of what the kli is made from in kasher.
Okay, I just got an interesting shaila about fish food. So the ingredient on the fish food is freeze-dried bloodworms only.
So doesn't sound like chametz to me.
So does one have to be chayshish that maybe it was made in chametz kalim or
so if it was, it's probably bottled anyhow before Yom Tov.
So just when he says kol chamira, he has it in mind. That's part of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Someone sent in a shaila, not kashering related. Interesting shaila. I'm not really sure it's a shaila, but we'll ask it anyway. Somebody has, where did it go? An ant or a roach trap on Pesach, can they be used? If yes, do we need new ones?
You can use them. The only question is you have to know what the bait is. If the bait is a chametz bait, which in many of them it is, you have them out. You have to put them away from those.
So what about the glue? The glue you don't have to worry about.
No, the glue is not an issue. No.
The glue is not an issue. Okay. Here we go. The person. Interesting. This person just sent me. He peeled back the label from the fish food, and it has wheat flour and herring meal. I guess it's chametz gum. Okay. Somebody wanted to know about fish. Do you need to change let's say for fish, people have fish at home, goldfish. So in it, maybe they're using chametz during the year. On Pesach, they'll use non-chametz. Do you have to change the gravel?
I don't think he has to change the gravel. I don't think so.
Okay. Someone sent in a question. If I'm going away for Yom Tif and do bedika without a bracha before I fly, and I'm working there Erev Pesach, so it'll be tied with the times, can the father do the burning? Must I hide the bread there in order for it to burn?
No, somebody else can do. You're not mechuyev to do the burning yourself.
Someone else can do it.
Are you there shliach too?
I'm sorry, what?
One can do it with a shliach.
One can do it with a shliach.
Not mechuyev to burn it himself. If he has a difficulty burning it, there's someone else to burn it for.
The shayla that we have every year, ständig, if somebody has chametz milk, first of all, is there any problem like the milk with the vitamins? What does a person do? Second of all, if you have chametz milk, and when I assume chametz milk, it means milk that was opened up for chametz stick and not finished by Pesach. Can you use it Pesach until it's done? Can you use it for Pesach until it's done?
I believe it's in Siman Tov Mem, if I recall correctly. The Shulchan Aruch says that any package of food that's used around chametz that was opened before Yom Tov, we do not use on Yom Tov, period. So if it was the milk was opened and there's still chametz around the house, that's how the Shulchan Aruch, we don't use such things on Yom Tov.
Well, what does the Rav hold about kashering a samovar?
Not in this country. In commercial settings where they're expensive built-in machines, I tend to allow them to be kosher, but there's also less issues in those commercial machines than in home machines. Because the commercial machines are fixed in place. You can't put them in a sink to wash them with chametz. So all the more worst that could have happened with that is maybe some once in the year, some chametz spilled to the outside. So you dump hot water on it. But in home machines, I tell people in this country, at this time and place, to put them away and get another one for Pesach.
Okay, someone sent an interesting shaila now also. Can a person have matzah brai on Erev Pesach? I'm assuming it was made on Friday and maybe eat it on Shabbos.
It depends how you make it. In other words, the Chofetz Chaim writes that if the pieces are less than a kazayas and they're actually fully mavushal, then there's no issue eating them on Erev Pesach. Not that he writes to mutter to eat kneidlich for that reason. Now, matzah brai, there are different ways of making it. If you just, the typical way of making it, if you just do iri klirishan on it, then it does not resolve the problem. It doesn't lose the tzura of matzah, and one wouldn't be able to eat an Erev Pesach altogether. Even if you would be able to eat an Erev Pesach, it would go into the realm of matzah shir. So I'm not, as I say, I'm not signing off that you could do such a thing. And the thing that has so much, the Chofetz Chaim is Meikel and Kneidlich, and I believe there are Machmirim too.
Someone sent a shiloh going back to B'dikas Chametz. We're going away the whole Pesach. What do we need to clean? We're leaving Tuesday. Do we do B'dikas Chametz Monday? So if I could just, I know the Rav would love to hear this. The one shiloh that I ever asked Rav Elyashiv directly when I was a bacher was I was leaving to after this man, and I asked him, I said, when should I do B'dikas? He said, whenever you're going, the night before you should do B'dikas Chametz in your room.
Oh, wow. Push it.
I just wanted to share that with the Rav.
Yes.
I know he would appreciate that.
Yes.
The one shiloh I asked Rav Elyashiv directly. I'm sorry, the Rav wanted to answer.
So one has to, lechatchila, one should do a normal B'dikas Chametz and see that there isn't, chametz, all the chametz is put away. There's not chametz around the house to do a B'dika. That's the lechatchila. I'll share with you a tremendous kula from Rabbi Yosef. There's a Haggadah from Rabbi Yosef. It's put out, I think, even B'chaim Chiyusim was still alive when they put it out. And it's based a little on the psukim of the B'chacha in the Shulchan Aruch, where he writes the following, Rabbi Yosef, that if you clean the room in your house, or even a goyta cleans it, but you checked after to see that it was clean, and you makbid after that not to let chametz into that room, but as a cheskes bodik, it doesn't need b'dikas chametz at all. That's the way Rabbi Yosef Paskin lahaloch.
I want to go back to mouthwash and toothpaste. What's the Rav Shita with that on Pesach?
With that, listen, there are numerous ones in all the lists that clearly don't have any chametz, and that's the way one should go. Now I see I have a question. About someone wanted to know about that they have problems with grape juice. I wasn't sure exactly what the question was.
Yeah, I'll read the question. The question is, I think it's more of a personal question. What if a person's pre-diabetic, chas v'shalom, and presently has trouble preventing hypoglycemia? Can you dilute the grape juice or reduce grape juice less than 3 ounces?
Yeah, I don't reduce. The questioner has to know. He's not mechuyev to drink more than 1.5 ounces each time. So I don't know. I don't know how sensitive his case is. If he drank 6 ounces of grape juice over the course of the whole Seder, if he's going to have a problem. Let's give an honest answer to that question. I think Rav Moshe allowed the diluting of the grape juice. I don't know the light ones, I can't tell you, but the regular ones, I think up to 1/3 of water, which l'chayra stims. The regular grape juice is all grape juice. In Siman Reish Beis, there's a machlokes, the mechaber and the gro. The mechaber holds that as long as you don't have 6 parts, 1/6, you have to have less than 1/6 wine to be an issue. And you still more than 1/6 wine. Let's put it this way: you still make bar priya gofen. But the Gra writes it depends on rov, whatever the rov is. If it's rov wine, you make bar priya gofen. Less than rov wine, you don't. So according to that cheshbon, the chol hadayis, if you put in about 1/3, should not be a problem. Because the water, this is not reconstituted. They're not watering down the grape juice. So if he needs, he could add in a 3-ounce cup, he could add 1 ounce of water, if that helps. Now, if a person, b'chlal, Chalila, is not well and is not able to have grape juice or wine, so the halacha in the Shulchan Aruch is that one could be Yotze B'Chamar Medina. So a tea or a coffee would be acceptable for such a person to be Yotze Dalet Kaisis, which brings to mind the famous incident with Reb Chaim Brisk, Zatzal. A Yid came to him once in Brisk, and he said, Rebbe, could I be Yotze the Arba Kaisis with milk? So Reb Chaim sent after him a nice amount of money to make Yontif. He said, if the Yid is asking if he'd be Yotze the Arba Kaisis with milk, it means he doesn't even have money for a piece of chicken for the Seder. The astuteness of the house of Brisk and Chesed.
Very interesting shaila here. Somebody wants to know rubbing alcohol, if you can use it for somebody who cleans his arm before taking growth hormone shots. Is rubbing alcohol?
Rubbing alcohol is kamat in this country, is kamat never real chametz. From what we have here, it's almost never real chametz. That it's really ethyl alcohol and it's an edible state, that ethyl alcohol, kamat not.
Here's the hilchos kashering. Can we kasher utensils in any pot? Does it have to be pesachdik, fleshik for fleshik kalim, milchik for milchik kalim, or anything?
The minig is we use a pot that's eno ben yomo. We use the kalim that eno ben yomo. The minig lechatchil is to use a pesach pot and to kasher again at the end. That's the minig. So mainly you use a pesach pot that doesn't make a difference milchik or fleshik because it's eno ben yomo. Everything's coming out parv after that, and then you put them back to where you want them to be.
Somebody wanted to know, I think the Rabbi mentioned this, but just can you eat things with matzah meal on Erev Pesach?
So can you eat, it depends. If they're baked or cooked. If they're cooked things, yes. The Chavetz Chaim says knei v'chamuta. It's the Furish and the Mishnah Berurah.
Yeah. Someone wanted to know also, a person has a new electric urn. It says, do not immerse. What's the proper way to table?
You know, does it have a computer chip or not?
Doesn't
Does
say.
it have like a digital display? If it has a digital display, it means it has a computer chip. If you put it in the water, you can call it from his own to take care of the rest, you know. But if it doesn't, then you can put it in the water, but don't wait until Erev Yontif, because you want to let it dry out for a good number of days before you put it on, and you'll be fine. Now, if you can't table something, now there's no heter. I don't know, somebody started a heter in the world. I mean, it's before some whole kitzvah sa'aretz, that to use something one time without tefillah is mutter. It's before Shlit in the Shulchan Aruch that it's awesome. So Shulchan Aruch and Siman Shin Chal Gimel and Aruch Chaim says that if it's Erev Shabbos and you don't have a chance to table a pot, then you have to transfer it to a non-Jew and borrow it from him. So if you're allowed to use it once without tabling it, why does the Shulchan Aruch wake up this chumrah for? So it's obvious the Mechaber does not hold from it. And none of the Achronim Masig on the Mechaber that he messed up. So you have one of two choices. And if you don't have a way to table it, so then you can transfer it to a guy and borrow it from the guy. And I believe that Minchas Yitzchak, I think, also wrote this, as L'maisa for Shas Adchak, if you could be Soymach on this. And if you want to really lechatchila heter, but that you have to prepare before Yontif, you won't be able to do it right away. What seemed to me is the following: since the Gemara has a whole discussion when things are no longer mekabel tumah, how big the hole in them has to be. So, but nevertheless, lidai, when you have an electric coffee maker, for example, and it no longer heats, none of us keep it to use it as an urn and as a cold water dispenser. Somebody wants to say, oh, you still need to because it's going to be used as a cold. No, with our minig in this society, if the heat burns out, you throw it out. You don't keep it as a cold water pitcher. So I did check. Rabbi Yosef Zatzal was also of that view. So Rabbi Yosef held the following: that if I detach internally the electronics in a way that needs a person that's expert in electronics to put them back together, and then that person puts the electronics back together again, that's considered that the kli was made by a yid. And this is similar to a psak that you find in the Chachmas Odom, that they used to have big vats, and I guess they weren't mechuber l'karka, and they were made by non-Jews. So what did they do? They didn't fit into the mikveh. They couldn't schlep them to the mikveh. So he paskin they should drill a hole in the bottom, so it no longer holds liquid, and then they should have a Jewish worker weld the hole closed. And it's considered that the kli was made by a yid. So Rabbi Yosef holds the same thing by electronic kalim. So that's the most lechatchila.
We have a couple more minutes, or can I
We
just?
have about 4 more minutes.
Okay, maybe I'll ask the Shilohs quickly, and if the Rav wants to just give a quick answer. Person, just going back to this is Taka. I see a few people have asked this. So a person makes a lady writes, I made Pesach rolls with matzah meal. First she boils it, then she bakes it. Can she eat it on Erev Pesach? But I guess on Shabbos people are going to have cake maybe. So if a person has like matzah meal cake, can they eat it?
You boil it and you bake it, pashtus again. I mean, we had just had the minchas marcheshes. It's interesting, the bagel is the Jewish food. And really, where the bagel comes from? The bagel comes from the Beis Hamikdash. Rashi, if you look in Rashi there, it says that they processed it many times over. The first thing was cholto b'roiskin. They boiled it. Then they put it in the oven and they baked it. And that's considered to be, it's a bagel. They come straight from the food of the Beis Hamikdash.
So what's the gather of Erev Pesach with matzah meal cake on Shabbos?
I don't think you should eat it. The matzah meal cake is the Chavetz Chaim only is matter and things that you cooked and they stayed cooked. Like
okay, I'm just going to jump around. The person sent a question in the high-tech COVID world. Is there a question about hand sanitizer?
What?
Hand sanitizer.
There's no question of hand sanitizing. I think the person doesn't need to be so nervous anymore. It's Baruch Hashem, the Rabbi Shalom is giving us bracha that this nagif is receding, but whatever, the scientific information does not seem to support its use. But anyhow, if they want to do it, I don't see any comments with it.
Okay. Did I miss anything? I hope not. I don't think so. Baruch Hashem, I think we got everybody. I think we've hit it all pretty much. Baruch Hashem. There's any other? I got a lot of messages that the Zoom was full. We did record it, Baruch Hashem, and we will be posting it. Oh, someone asked a question about baby wipes. I guess that'll be the same thing. Baby wipes will be okay?
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay. I want to thank the Rabbi again, Rabbi Welcher, so much for his time. And
I wish everyone a Chag Kosher v'Sameach, and the Rabbi Shalom should give us simcha doubly this year. Once for last year, once for this year.
Amen.
And I want to thank Rabbi Chaim Schwartz, the Executive Vice President of the VAD, really, for organizing this event, the one that's served the community well for Pesach. And he's an Eved Nemo. He works for the community Yom V'Layla, from the time he wakes up in the morning till the time he sleeps at night. And he bears a great deal of responsibility and puts up with many, many difficulties. And Baruch Hashem, because of that, we have a kashrus in our area that's the Shem Luciferis, that's renowned as a model of what community kashrus ought to be. So hats off there, and thank you, Rabbi Chaim. And I think we should try maybe a few times a year to make these webinars on very timely subjects. So Be'ez Hashem, wish everyone a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining.